I'm Laura Franz with TLS Veterans, and I'm here to demonstrate our thankfulness for the COVID-19 emergency funding that was made available by the United Way of Greater McHenry County and the Community Foundation for McHenry County. At TLS Veterans, we have 8 different programs that focus on helping veterans and family members that need a hand up. We help with housing, with food, with clothing, with employment, with counseling, with people who talk to you through rough times. We're there with whatever a veteran needs. They come into our agency, they share what their concerns and needs are. Sometimes we find out there's more, and then we either connect them with the appropriate program or with colleagues like the Veterans Assistance Commission or the staff at Lovell Federal Health Care Center who can provide pieces that we can't provide. In the COVID environment with the shutdown, being able to provide our range of services was so challenging. And yet we were determined as a staff group that we were going to continue because regardless of the circumstances, the needs of the veterans were there, and even more so. On a good day, we struggle to help veterans come out of isolation and connect with other people. So imagine trying to do the same thing in an environment where we're supposed to be isolated for our own safety. And so our staff members got very creative and very effective at being able to reach people through video programming, phone calls, texting, visits where they were wearing masks and keeping socially distanced. In that way, we were able to stay connected with veterans in need and did some really amazing stories that happened during this time. There was a family of 6 that we were able to get into housing that had been trying to get into housing for months. There is a 93-year-old veteran that we were able to assist, and numerous other stories of people that really were entering a level of desperation because of everything that was going on. And here were our people ready, and willing to step up and offer that path to hope, which is what TLS Veterans is all about. Thank you again.
My name is Sabrina from TLS Veterans, and today I'm with Peter Sorelli, a Army veteran. So, Peter, did you get drafted into the Army?
I enlisted in the Enlisted Reserve Corps when I was in high school in 1942. But in 1943, I almost got killed because a crane fell on top of me and fractured my pelvis, all my ribs, and my collarbone. And so I was in the hospital for 2.5 months and 9 months at home.
Oh, wow.
And so they postponed my enlistment.
Oh.
So, but they checked on me once a month. So in 1945, they thought I was healed enough that they took me in the Army.
Good.
Yeah.
And then you said when you were in the Army, what was your assignment? Your assignment?
Oh, I went to Fort Sheridan here, and from Fort Sheridan, I went to Camp Lee, Virginia, outside of Richmond. And after basic training, they asked me if I wanted to go to cook school.
Okay.
And I said, sure. Because I was Italian, they thought I'd make a good cook.
Right.
I didn't realize I was going to go for 2 weeks on the water. And I cooked on the ship. So as about a week out, we got a call from Tokyo that the Japanese surrendered.
Oh.
So we didn't have to. We went in there. We were going to invade Yokohama, in the island, just outside of Tokyo. So as a result, they surrendered. And so we kept going, and we were going to Yokohama. And when we got out of Yokohama, they asked me if I wanted to, because I went at cook school, they asked me if I wanted to cook And I said, yeah, I'll cook. But I didn't realize I was going to cook for General MacArthur. So we had taken on a Jeep and went to Tokyo. And so the building that they put me in was called the Sanshin Building. And General MacArthur was 2 doors down, and his building was called the Daiichi Building. That's where he stayed.
Right.
And he had sent for his Cadillac from America to be brought to Japan. I got a picture of his Cadillac. Yeah, and as a result, he sent for his wife and the car. And so they always lived 2 doors down from where I was. And they had to come in my kitchen to eat. The generals and this, stuff like that. No enlisted men. But the real bad part was I wasn't aware that the Japanese had different methods of respecting the women. And so when I went into the building and I went to the washroom, there was a lady in there cleaning the washroom. So I went back to my room. And this is the first day I was there. So I waited about an hour and a half. They went again. I went back there. She was still there. Well, she was there. I was there about maybe 3 times, like in 2 hours. And I figured, well, I tried to tell her, when are you leaving? But she didn't understand English. So I went to the provost marshal's office, which was in the building, and they said, you're going to die if you don't go to the washroom because that girl stays in there all day. And she's there whether you go to the bathroom or you don't. And I said, oh my God, well, you got to go to the bathroom in front of a lady? I wasn't used to that. But that was the first experience of Japan. So as a result, then I went to my room and there was a Japanese girl. They took care of the rooms I was in, see? And anyhow, from then on, I cooked, and then they brought me the kamikaze pilots that we captured and asked me if I needed KPs. You know what KPs are? You know what KPs are?
No.
Well, KPs are, they mop the floor, they wash the dishes, they do all the kitchen work.
Okay.
And so they gave me 6 of them. And I'd say after about a week, the KPs, I didn't know that they look like 15-year-old kids if you look at them, but they were in their 20s. So one of the guys says, I was in the kitchen, the only American in the kitchen outside of the KPs. So they asked me if I wanted a box, and they would, judo. And I said, sure. I thought, man, I hate to hit one of these little kids, I never remember hitting the floor. They got me down on the floor in minutes. And they put a scissor grip on my neck and they were killing me. I didn't realize that they were still fighting the war. And I couldn't breathe, but they had no shoes. They took their shoes off. And so all the KPs surrounded, and I was starting to lose my breath, and I reached over and grabbed their 2 toes, and I broke them. I reached over, and when I broke his toes, he loosened the grip on my neck, and I called the provost marshal and had him take the guy with the broken toes, they were like this, and had him taken to the hospital. And I had them say in Japanese, if they don't straighten out, they're gonna be hung. And so, but they became real good friends because they respected that I almost killed the guy. See, that's their mentality, and that was my experience first month in Japan. And so I got pictures when I asked them, they spoke English, not good, but they spoke English and understood English. And they knew our Star Spangled Banner. All the KPs, they said that they're taught that in school. And so I asked them where their horses are, because I was a horseman. And they told the guy that there was a regular academy outside of town. Well, outside of town was off limits for me. So as a result, I asked them if they would come with me, so they wouldn't, kill me. So the 4 of them came with me, and I had a Jeep. They gave me a Jeep when I went there, see, at the motor pool. So we went to where the horses were, but they wouldn't give me a horse. They were cocky. The Japanese were real. So as a result, I didn't get my horse.
Citations?
Oh, the medals that they gave me were like rifle, a medal for rifle shooting, basic. Because we were going into a war, but they surrendered before we got there.
Do you remember what boot camp was like? Was it
Boot camp?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was it intense?
Huh?
Was it intense? Did you have to do a lot?
Oh no, not intense. They had buildings. Yeah, there were 360 guys to a battalion. And in the battalion was 2 floors of guys where they slept. So we had four buildings to a battalion.
Did you share with
Oh, in the building?
Yeah.
Oh yes, there were 90 guys to a building.
90, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. 2 floors. That's the first lieutenant, for chauffeur, with him coming out of the building, getting in his Cadillac.
Whose Cadillac is that?
General MacArthur.
Okay.
But so he had to be stern and forceful, and he had to be a leader.
Right.
So he wasn't popular. Everybody didn't like him because he was a leader. But when he was around the building, he was a different person. To me, he was a great person, good person.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, this is on a ship going overseas. We were on a ship. We looked more and more like criminals. And here, this is a picture of the MacArthur, his headquarters, and here's where I stayed. See how close?
Who's Frank?
Huh?
Who's Frank?
Frank is but him and I went to school together in Chicago, and then we enlisted together. This is the hospital in Tokyo. You ever heard of the guy named Ernie Pyle?
No.
He was a war correspondent, and he got killed, and they named the hospital after him, Ernie Pyle Hospital.
Wow.
And this guy here He was in charge of a tank crew, and after we captured Tokyo, he went to Korea with his crew, and the Koreans, they captured his tank because they had the Chinese with them.
Yeah.
And they shot the whole crew in the head.
Oh my god.
So there were 6 guys in the crew. Him and another guy, they lived. They got shot in the head, but they were paralyzed.
Oh.
And so as a result, they sent him home, but he died about 2-3 months later. Yeah, I rode home. Yeah, I said, actually, if you look on the side there, it says, "Tumop." That's a picture I gave to, I sent to my mother. But when she died, I took it. My window every day, because I was on the 6th floor,
Yeah.
so I could look over the palace.
It's a beautiful view.
And in back of the palace was Mount Fuji, see?
Wow.
This is the ship, the Italian liner.
That's the one you took.
Yes. And this was going overseas. We look like criminals.
Yeah.
I am not a citizen.
Really?
But the government here made it, we didn't have a birth certificate. Because the town we were in, all the townspeople in Italy put all their birth certificates and precious paper in the church. When they had an earthquake in Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius, they had an earthquake, the church collapsed and buried all our papers. So I never had a birth certificate anymore.